General Zixvorn stood tall on the bridge of his ship as it entered Earth's orbit. His four arms were clasped behind his back, and his scaled skin shimmered under the lights. This was a historic moment. The galactic hegemony had discovered Earth only 3 months ago, and already they were making first contact. "Sir, the humans have sent landing coordinates," said Subcommander Krell, his assistant for the last 12 cycles. Zixvorn nodded. "Prepare the diplomatic vessel. I want our best security team and cultural experts on board." The hegemony had classified Earth as a death world, a planet with harsh conditions that produce tough, potentially dangerous species. Zixvorn had studied the reports carefully. High gravity, extreme weather, large predators, and a dominant species that had somehow survived it all. These humans were either very lucky or very clever, perhaps both. The landing was smooth. Their ship touched down on a large concrete pad where a group of humans waited. Zixvorn took a deep breath of the filtered air in his suit before the door opened. "Remember," he told his team, "we represent the entire hegemony. No mistakes." Ambassador Frank Carter stepped forward as the aliens emerged. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and a friendly smile that hid years of diplomatic experience. "General Zixvorn, welcome to Earth. I'm Ambassador Carter. We're honored to host the Galactic Hegemony's delegation." The translation device worked perfectly. Zixvorn extended his upper right arm in greeting. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. We look forward to learning about your world and people." They moved toward a large building nearby. Security personnel from both species watched each other carefully. The human guards wore blue uniforms and carried small black objects on their hips. "Those are weapons," whispered Krell. They'd brought weapons to a diplomatic meeting. Zixvorn's inner eyelids flickered with concern. "Stay calm. It may be standard protocol for them." Inside the building, the human security team requested that everyone pass through a scanning device. When it was Zixvorn's turn, the machine made a loud noise. A security officer approached. "I apologize, General, but we detect several metallic objects on your person." "My ceremonial badges and communication devices," Zixvorn explained, showing the items. The officer nodded and let him pass. But Zixvorn noticed something interesting. Every human security member carried not just one but several weapons. Different sizes, different types. During the welcome ceremony, Zixvorn observed the room. The walls displayed images of humans in various uniforms. In many pictures, they held weapons. The diversity of these tools was surprising. Later, at the formal dinner, Zixvorn sat beside Ambassador Carter. "I notice your security forces carry personal weapons," said the general between bites of a specially prepared meal. Carter nodded. "Standard procedure. I hope it doesn't make you uncomfortable." "Not at all. I'm curious about them. They seem quite varied." "Oh yes," Carter said with a small smile. "We have a long history with firearms and weapons development. Perhaps you'd be interested in visiting our National Firearms Museum during your stay." Zixvorn's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. That would be most educational. After dinner, Subcommander Krell approached his superior in their private quarters. "General, I've compiled initial data on human weapons. It's disturbing." Zixvorn reviewed the information on the screen. These humans had thousands of different weapons designs. They had been killing each other efficiently for centuries. This species might be too dangerous to incorporate into the hegemony, Krell suggested. Their fixation on weapons suggests aggressive tendencies. Zixvorn was quiet for a moment, or it suggests they face threats we cannot imagine. "Remember, Krell, this is a death world. Perhaps these tools help them survive. What should I report to High Command?" The general looked out the window at the night lights of the human city. "Tell them we need more information before making any judgments. These humans are complex, and I intend to understand them." Krell left, and Zixvorn continued studying the data. Tomorrow he would visit this museum and learn more about human weapons. Something told him he was only beginning to understand what made this species survive on their deadly planet. The next morning, General Zix Vorn and 3 members of his team met Ambassador Carter outside their quarters. The humans smiled as they approached. "I hope you rested well, General. Our gravity is stronger than what you're used to." Zix Vorn stretched his forearms. "We adapted our sleeping chambers. Thank you for your concern." They boarded a large black vehicle that moved smoothly through the city streets. Zix Vorn watched the human buildings pass by. So solid, so heavy. Everything on Earth seemed built to last. "The National Firearms Museum is one of our oldest collections," Carter explained. "It shows the history of human weapons development across centuries." Sub-Commander Krell leaned closer to his general. "This confirms my concerns. They celebrate their killing tools." Zix Vorn raised a hand to silence him. "We will observe before judging." The museum was a large building with thick walls and many rooms. A human female waited for them at the entrance. "General Zix Vorn, welcome. I'm Susan Miller, the lead curator. It's my pleasure to guide you through our collection." Susan led them into the first hall. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with primitive objects. "We begin with early human weapons," she said. "These are bows and arrows, used for thousands of years for hunting and warfare." Zix Vorn studied the simple tools, bent wood and string, designed to launch small pointed sticks. Primitive, but clever. They moved to the next room. Here the weapons looked different. Metal tubes with wooden handles. "These are early firearms from the 14th century, Susan explained. They used gunpowder, a chemical explosive, to launch projectiles. Zix Vorn's inner eyelids flickered with interest. "How long between these and the previous weapons?" "About 10,000 years for the full development from bow to basic firearm." The alien general made a note on his device. "Such slow progress. The hegemony would have developed faster." As they continued through the museum, the weapons changed rapidly. Each room showed new designs, new mechanisms, each more efficient than the last. "This represents only 500 years of development," Susan said, gesturing to a massive wall of different firearms. Zix Vorn paused. 500, not 5,000. "Correct. Human weapons technology accelerated quickly once we entered the industrial age." The general exchanged looks with his team. This was unexpected. The rate of human innovation had increased by a factor of 20. In just 5 centuries, they had gone from crude metal tubes to the complex weapons carried by their security forces. The final rooms showed modern military weapons, rifles that could hit targets at impossible distances, machines that fired hundreds of rounds per minute, compact devices that could be hidden in clothing. "And these are available to your military only?" asked Zix Vorn. Susan smiled. "Many similar models are available to ordinary citizens, depending on local laws." The general's 4 eyes widened. "Civilians may own these." "In many regions, yes. It's a complicated topic with different rules in different places." After the tour, Zix Vorn requested time to examine some exhibits more closely. He sent his team members to different sections of the museum, instructing them to record everything. Ambassador Carter watched with interest. "You seem fascinated, General." "Your species' relationship with these tools is unique," Zix Vorn replied carefully. Back on their ship that evening, the general reviewed the data his team had gathered. The rapid evolution of human weapons troubled him. If their other technologies had developed at similar rates. "Sir, I sent a preliminary report to High Command," said Krell, entering the room. "What did you tell them?" Zix Vorn asked sharply. "The truth. That humans have an unusual fixation on weapons development and might pose a risk to the hegemony." Zix Vorn stared at the screens showing images from the museum. "You missed something important, Krell." "Sir, these weapons didn't develop in a straight line. They branched, adapted, specialized. The humans weren't just making better weapons. They were making different weapons for different purposes." The general pointed to his notes. "That suggests something far more interesting than aggression. What does it suggest, sir? Zixvorn's scaled face formed what might have been a smile. Problem-solving. Innovation. And I want to see more. The morning of the third day brought a new experience for General Zixvorn. Ambassador Carter had arranged a visit to a military training facility outside the city. The general's ship flew low over green fields and forests before landing on a concrete pad marked with white lines. A human male in a dark green uniform waited for them. He stood very straight, his face serious. General Zixvorn, welcome to Fort Bradley. I'm Colonel Alan Hayes. The alien general extended his upper right arm. Colonel, thank you for this opportunity. Hayes nodded. Ambassador Carter mentioned your interest in our weapons. We've prepared a demonstration at our firing range. They walked through the base, passing buildings and human soldiers who stopped to stare at the aliens. Zixvorn noticed that despite their curiosity, the soldiers maintained discipline. Your troops are well trained, he commented. They are, Hayes agreed. Many have served in conflict zones around the world. Zixvorn's translator caught the word. Conflict zones. Your planet is at war. Hayes exchanged a look with Ambassador Carter. Not global war, but yes, we have regional conflicts. Humans don't always agree with each other. This information troubled the general. A species that fought among itself was unpredictable. They arrived at an outdoor range where targets stood at various distances. A human female in uniform waited beside a table covered with different weapons. This is Sergeant Lisa Conway, one of our best marksmen, said Hayes. Markswoman, Conway corrected with a small smile. I'll be demonstrating various firearms today, sir. Zixvorn watched as Conway picked up a small black object, similar to what the security teams carried. This is a standard sidearm, effective range about 50 meters. She put on eye and ear protection, then aimed at a target. The weapon made a sharp, loud sound that made Krell jump. A small hole appeared in the center of the target. Conway demonstrated several more weapons, each larger and more powerful than the last. She hit targets at incredible distances. The final weapon was long and had a viewing device on top. Sniper rifle, effective range 1,500 meters. When she fired, there was a delay before they heard the impact on a distant target they could barely see. Would you like to try it, General? Hayes asked, offering a smaller weapon. Zixvorn hesitated, then nodded. Conway showed him how to hold the pistol. It felt heavy and cold in his hand. Keep both eyes open, aim at the closest target, and squeeze gently, she instructed. Zixvorn did as told. When he pulled the trigger, the weapon jumped in his hand. His shot missed the target completely. The recoil had surprised him. It pushed back, he said, surprised. Newton's third law, Conway explained. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The force that pushes the bullet forward also pushes the gun backward. Zixvorn tried again, prepared for the recoil this time. His shot hit the edge of the target. Conway nodded with approval. Good improvement. It takes practice. After the demonstration, they sat in a meeting room. Zixvorn had many questions. Your weapons are more advanced than I expected for your technology level, he said. Hayes nodded. Necessity drives innovation. We've had to defend ourselves throughout our history. Against what? You are the dominant species on this planet. Against each other, mostly, said Carter. Human history is filled with conflict. Zixvorn processed this information. And you mentioned civilians can own these weapons. Some types, yes, it varies by region, but many people own firearms for protection, hunting, or sport. Back on his ship that evening, Zixvorn prepared his report to Hegemony High Command. He chose his words carefully. The humans have developed efficient weapons and have distributed them widely among their population. They are comfortable with these tools and skilled in their use. I recommend caution in our approach to Earth integration. He sent the message, then turned to look at the planet through his viewport. A species that armed itself so thoroughly must live in constant fear. Yet the humans he met seemed confident, not fearful. There was more to learn about these Deathworld dwellers and their relationship with their weapons. Much more. General Zixvorn was awakened by an urgent message. His communication device flashed with the highest priority signal from Hegemony High Command. He pressed the receive button, and the stern face of Admiral Krethal appeared on the screen. "General, your reports about the humans are concerning," said the Admiral. His 6 eyes narrowed. "The High Council believes this species could pose a threat to our expansion." Zixvorn sat straighter. "They are advanced in weapons technology, but have shown no hostility toward us." "Yet," said Krethal, "history shows that Deathworld species often become aggressive once they gain access to space technology. We must be prepared." "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Find weaknesses in their defenses. Document their military capabilities fully. We need to understand how to neutralize them if necessary." Zixvorn felt uncomfortable. The humans had been open and welcoming. Now he was being asked to spy on them. "I understand, Admiral. I will gather the information." After the call ended, Zixvorn summoned Subcommander Krell. The younger alien seemed pleased by the new orders. "I knew the High Command would see the danger," Krell said. "These humans must be controlled." "Our orders are to gather information only," Zixvorn reminded him. "Deploy our intelligence officers, but be subtle. The humans must not suspect." Over the next 2 days, Zixvorn continued the diplomatic meetings while his team collected data. They visited more military facilities, examined public records, and observed human security measures. The general was careful to maintain a friendly relationship with Ambassador Carter and other officials. What Zixvorn didn't know was that they were being watched too. Jack Daniels sat at his desk in a small office deep inside a government building. As an intelligence officer with 15 years of experience, he had been assigned to monitor the alien delegation. Something about their recent activities bothered him. "They're asking too many specific questions about our defense systems," he told his boss, Director Nancy Wells. "And their scanning devices are active more often than necessary for diplomatic purposes." Wells frowned at the report on her screen. "You think they're gathering intelligence?" "I do. They're particularly interested in our weapons capabilities." "Keep watching them," Wells ordered. "But don't interfere unless absolutely necessary. We need this alliance." Back at the alien ship, Zixvorn reviewed the latest data his team had collected. The information troubled him deeply. "The humans have weapons we didn't know about," he told Krell. "Missiles that can strike across their planet. Bombs that can destroy entire cities. Weapons that use radiation and chemicals. All the more reason to consider them dangerous," Krell replied. Zixvorn shook his head. "That's not what concerns me. Look at the dates. They developed these weapons decades or even centuries ago, yet they haven't destroyed themselves. Somehow, they've created balance." "What does that mean for us?" "It means they understand restraint despite their capacity for violence." Zixvorn closed the data files. "I need to speak with Ambassador Carter again. There's something we're missing." The next morning, Zixvorn met Carter at a quiet garden near the diplomatic quarters. No aides, no security, just the two of them. "Ambassador, I must ask you something important," the general began. "Your species has weapons capable of destroying your entire civilization. Why haven't you used them?" Carter looked surprised by the direct question. "We have used them, actually, near the end of our Second World War. After witnessing their destructive power, we created systems to prevent their use again. You developed weapons too powerful to use." "Essentially, yes. We call it deterrence. The knowledge that using such weapons would lead to mutual destruction helps keep peace between major powers." Zixvorn considered this strange logic. Create weapons so terrible that no one dares use them. It was both brilliant and insane. As he walked back to his ship, the general's mind was troubled. He had been ordered to find weaknesses in human defenses. Instead, he was finding strengths he hadn't imagined possible. That evening, General Zixvorn sat alone in his quarters, reviewing everything he had learned about humans. The screen before him displayed images of Earth's most powerful weapons: nuclear missiles, chemical agents, biological weapons. The destructive potential was enormous. Yet there was something he still didn't understand. He pressed a button on his communication device. "Ambassador Carter, I apologize for the late hour. May I speak with you privately tomorrow?" The next morning, they met at a quiet cafe near the diplomatic center. No aides, no recording devices. Just two individuals from different worlds trying to understand each other. "Thank you for meeting me," Zixworn said as they sat at a corner table. Carter nodded. "Your message sounded important. I need to understand something fundamental about humans." The general's 4 eyes focused intently on the ambassador. "Your history is filled with violence against your own kind. You've developed weapons that could destroy your entire civilization. Yet you still exist. How?" Carter sipped his coffee slowly before answering. "It's complicated. We fight, yes. We always have. But we also build. We create. We find ways to live together despite our differences. But the weapons are tools," Carter interrupted. "Dangerous tools, but still just tools. They reflect our ability to solve problems, even if the problem is another human trying to harm us." Zixvorn's inner eyelids flickered with confusion. "You speak of killing your own species as a problem to solve. Survival is the ultimate problem for any species," Carter said quietly. "On Earth, threats come from nature, from disease, and yes, from other humans. We developed weapons to survive all these threats. But you turned them on each other. We did. And we learned from that. Each conflict taught us something, made us reconsider. The most powerful weapons we created forced us to find new ways to resolve our differences." The general considered this. "You're saying that creating tools of destruction led to peace. Not perfect peace, but understanding, respect for the consequences of our actions." Carter leaned forward. "General, every weapon you've seen represents a problem humans faced and overcame. That's what you're really seeing in our arsenals, our history of survival." Zixvorn was silent for a long moment. This perspective changed everything. He had been seeing human weapons as evidence of aggression. But what if they were actually evidence of adaptation, of intelligence finding solutions to hostile conditions? "Ambassador, I must ask you something direct. If the hegemony threatened Earth, how would humans respond?" Carter's expression grew serious. "We would try diplomacy first. Always. But if threatened, we would defend ourselves with everything we have. Every weapon, every resource, every person capable of fighting. Your entire species would fight. If necessary, yes. We've united against common threats before." Zixvorn felt a cold realization form in his mind. The High Command was severely underestimating these humans, a species that had survived its own destructive tendencies, that had weaponized its entire planet, would not be easily conquered. "Thank you for your honesty," the general said finally. As he walked back to his ship, Zixvorn's mind was racing. He needed to report to Admiral Krethal, but what should he say? The truth might lead the hegemony to attempt a preemptive strike against Earth. A lie might lead to a disastrous underestimation of human capabilities. In his quarters, Zixvorn reviewed the data his team had collected once more. Firearms were just the beginning. Humans had developed weapon systems that worked together, defenses that complemented offenses, strategies that accounted for their own weaknesses. And there was something else, something he hadn't fully appreciated until now. The humans shared their knowledge openly. They showed him their weapons, explained their capabilities, demonstrated their use. They weren't hiding their strength. They were displaying it. That wasn't the behavior of prey. It was the confidence of a predator. Zixvorn made his decision. He would tell Admiral Krethal the truth, but not all of it. Not yet. First, he needed to understand these humans completely. Zixvorn was preparing his report when the ship's sensors detected something large entering Earth orbit. He rushed to the command center. The screen showed 5 hegemony battleships moving into position around the planet. "Sir, Admiral Kreethal's flagship is requesting communication," said the communications officer. The general felt his scales tighten with concern. He had not requested military support. "Put him through." Admiral Kreethal's face appeared on the main screen. "General Zixvorn, we've come to assist with the human situation." "I didn't request assistance, Admiral. The High Council felt your reports indicated a potential threat. We're here to ensure the humans understand their place in the hegemony." Zixvorn chose his words carefully. "The diplomatic mission is progressing well. Military presence might be seen as threatening." The Admiral's 6 eyes narrowed. "Your recent reports have been vague, General. Some might question your objectivity regarding these humans." A clear warning. Zixvorn understood the implication. "What are your orders, sir?" "We will meet with the human leaders tomorrow. They will be offered protection status in the hegemony, with appropriate restrictions on their military development." "And if they refuse?" Kreethal's expression hardened. "Then we will demonstrate the consequences of defiance. You will provide us with the information we need to disable their key defense systems." The screen went dark. Zixvorn stood motionless for a moment. The humans would never accept such terms. They would fight, and many would die needlessly. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Sub-Commander Krell. "Prepare the data on human defenses for transfer to the Admiral's ship," Zixvorn said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Then he added quietly to Krell, "Meet me in my private quarters in 10 minutes. Once they were alone, Zixvorn spoke directly. "Krell, what I'm about to do could be considered treason. You may leave now if you wish." Krell's inner eyelids flickered with surprise. "Sir, I believe the Admiral's approach is a mistake. The humans will not surrender their sovereignty. If we attack, they will unite against us, and the cost will be high on both sides. What do you intend to do?" "Warn them," Zixvorn said simply. Krell was silent for a long moment. "My loyalty is to the hegemony, sir, as is mine. I believe starting a war with the humans goes against our true interests." After another pause, Krell nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Delay the data transfer to the Admiral. Claim encryption problems. That will give me time." 30 minutes later, Zixvorn stood in a secure room in the Earth Diplomatic Building. Across from him sat Colonel Hayes and Director Wells. Both humans looked concerned. "You're telling us your fleet came without your request and plans to demand our surrender?" Wells asked sharply. "Yes. Admiral Kreethal believes humans are too dangerous to be allowed full autonomy in the hegemony." "And you disagree?" asked Hayes. Zixvorn's 4 arms moved in a gesture of affirmation. "I believe forcing humans to submit would be a costly mistake. Your species would resist fiercely. You're betraying your own people by telling us this." Wells noted, "I'm trying to prevent unnecessary conflict. If the Admiral knew your full capabilities, he might reconsider." Hayes leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" "A demonstration. Show enough of your strength to make the Admiral pause, but not enough to provoke immediate attack." "That's a dangerous game," said Wells. "Less dangerous than war," Zixvorn countered. The 2 humans exchanged looks. Finally, Hayes spoke. "We need to inform our leadership immediately. Can you buy us some time?" "I'll try. The diplomatic meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning." As Zixvorn left the building, he felt the weight of his decision. He had just committed an act that could end his career or worse. But watching the humans prepare for a fight they never sought felt wrong in a way he couldn't ignore. Whatever happened tomorrow, nothing would be the same again. The next morning, Earth's main diplomatic hall was filled with tension. On one side sat the human delegation led by Ambassador Carter, Colonel Hayes, and Director Wells. On the other side, Admiral Kreethal and his officers glared across the table. General Zixvorn sat uncomfortably between the 2 groups. "People of Earth," Admiral Kreethal began, his voice translated by the devices on the table. "The Galactic Hegemony has observed your civilization and determined you require guidance. We offer you protection status within our alliance. Carter's face remained calm. And what does protection status mean exactly? You would benefit from our technology and trade networks while we supervise your development. Certain restrictions would apply to your military capabilities and space travel. Director Wells leaned forward. You mean disarmament and confinement to our own solar system. For your own safety and that of others, the Admiral confirmed. Deathworld species often lack the restraint needed for peaceful coexistence. Carter exchanged looks with his colleagues, then spoke clearly. The people of Earth appreciate your offer, Admiral. However, we must decline. Earth will join the hegemony only as an equal partner, not as a supervised protectorate. Admiral Kreethal's 6 eyes narrowed. I don't think you understand your situation. Our ships currently surround your planet. We can disable your defenses before you could react. I wouldn't be so certain of that, said Colonel Hayes calmly. The Admiral turned to Zixborn. General, please share the defense analysis your team prepared. Zixborn hesitated. Admiral, I recommend further diplomatic discussion before. That was an order, General. Before Zixborn could respond, Ambassador Carter stood up. Perhaps a demonstration would be more efficient than a report. Admiral, would you look at the main screen, please? The large display on the wall activated, showing a view of space. Earth's moon was visible. This is a live feed from one of our orbital platforms, explained Hayes. Now, please observe the small moon that orbits beyond our primary satellite. It's uninhabited and has no value to us. The image zoomed in on a small rocky body. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared from Earth's direction. 3 seconds later, the small moon shattered into countless pieces. The room fell silent. Admiral Kreethal's face showed shock. That was one of our smaller defense systems, said Wells. We have many others, some less visible but equally effective. Carter's voice remained diplomatic. Admiral, we have no desire for conflict, but Earth will not be subjugated. We've faced extinction-level threats throughout our history and survived. We'd fought ourselves almost to annihilation and learned from it. Kreethal turned to Zixborn. You knew about this capability. The general met his superior's gaze. I tried to explain in my reports that humans are not what we initially assumed. They haven't just survived their death world. They've mastered it. You've betrayed the hegemony, the Admiral hissed. No, Zixborn replied firmly. I prevented a needless war. He stood up and moved to stand between the two delegations. What the humans have shown today is restraint, not weakness. They could have targeted our ships, but chose a demonstration instead. One of the Admiral's officers spoke up. Sir, I've analyzed the energy signature of that weapon. It exceeded our battlecruiser defensive capabilities. Another officer added, and our sensors detect multiple launch sites activating across the planet. Admiral Kreethal looked around the room, realizing his position was weaker than he'd thought. This changes nothing. The High Council will not allow a Deathworld species tow. The High Council will receive full reports from both of us, interrupted Zixborn, including my recommendation that Earth be offered full membership status. The Admiral stood up abruptly. This meeting is over. General Zixborn, you are relieved of command and will return to the homeworld for discipline. As Kreethal stormed out with his officers, Carter turned to Zixborn. That was brave, General. It was necessary, Zixborn replied. But I fear the Admiral won't easily change his mind. What will he do now? Asked Hayes. Zixborn looked troubled. I'm not certain, but we should prepare for his response. Hours after the failed diplomatic meeting, General Zixborn stood on the observation deck of his ship. He was technically under arrest, but his crew had not confined him to quarters. Most of them had served with him for years and trusted his judgment. The communication screen activated, showing Colonel Hayes. General, we're detecting unusual activity from the hegemony vessels. They appear to be moving into attack positions. Admiral Kreethal is preparing to strike, Zixborn said grimly. He believes a swift show of force will make Earth surrender. He's wrong, Hayes replied simply. I know. Can I come to your command center? I may be able to help prevent this conflict. 20 minutes later, Zixvorn entered Earth's military command hub. Dozens of humans worked at screens showing the positions of the hegemony ships. Ambassador Carter, Director Wells, and Colonel Hayes greeted him. Admiral Creethal has cut off my access to hegemony communications, Zixvorn explained. But I know how he thinks. He'll target your satellite networks first, then your power stations. We've already moved our defensive systems to high alert, said Hayes, but we'd prefer not to fire the first shot. Suddenly, all screens showed an incoming transmission. Admiral Creethal's face appeared. People of Earth, this is your final opportunity to accept hegemony protection. Surrender your military control or face immediate consequences. Before anyone could respond, a new voice spoke. Admiral Creethal, this is Commander Vrel of the battlecruiser Dominant. I must speak with you immediately. The Admiral looked annoyed by the interruption. This is not the time, Commander. Sir, my crew and I have reviewed General Zixvorn's full reports on the humans. We believe attacking Earth would violate the hegemony's founding principles of peaceful integration. Creethal's face darkened with anger. You dare question my orders. I am not alone, sir. Commander Vrel's voice remained steady. The captains of the Resolute and Vigilant stand with me. We request the High Council review this situation before any military action is taken. The Admiral's 6 eyes blinked rapidly in surprise. This is mutiny. This is prudence, corrected another voice as a new face appeared on screen. Fleet Commander Exon of the Resolute. I've served the hegemony for 40 cycles. Admiral, never have we attacked a species that offered no provocation. In the Earth Command Center, humans and Zixvorn watched in amazement as more hegemony officers joined the discussion. The majority supported delay and further diplomacy. Where is General Zixvorn? Asked Commander Vrel. We would hear his assessment directly. Zixvorn stepped forward into view of the transmission. I am here, on Earth. I believe attacking this planet would be a grave mistake. The humans have shown restraint despite possessing significant defensive capabilities. They seek alliance, not conflict. Admiral Creethal's authority was visibly crumbling. More than half his fleet now openly questioned his orders. This matter will be decided by the High Council, he said finally. I am placing General Zixvorn in command of diplomatic relations while we await their ruling. My ship will return to deliver their decision. The screen went dark. Moments later, sensors showed the Admiral's vessel breaking orbit, heading out of the solar system. The remaining ships moved to non-threatening positions. Ambassador Carter turned to Zixvorn. What just happened? Something rare in hegemony history, the general replied, his scales relaxing slightly. A peaceful resolution based on reason rather than force. In the weeks that followed, Zixvorn worked closely with the humans to prepare a comprehensive report for the High Council. Earth's weapons were described accurately, but placed in context. Tools for survival on a harsh world, not instruments of galactic conquest. The final day of Zixvorn's diplomatic mission found him at the firing range with Sergeant Conway. Keep both eyes open, brace for the recoil, and squeeze gently, she reminded him. The general followed her instructions. His shot hit the center of the target. Excellent improvement, Conway said with approval. Zixvorn carefully placed the pistol down. I understand now, he said quietly. Understand what? Why you created these weapons. Why you keep them. It's not because you want to use them. No, Conway agreed. It's because we know what happens if we can't. As his ship prepared to depart Earth the next day, Zixvorn looked at the blue planet with new respect. The Deathworld humans weren't merely survivors. They were teachers, and the lesson they offered the galaxy was both simple and profound. True strength lies not in weapons themselves, but in the wisdom to know when not to use them.